In this week's drive, we see age and experience tangle with youth and enthusiasm. Go 3 abreast in Turkey in the rain. Get Rossi off his bike and out of his leathers. And look at all sides in Texas. All this and more in this week's Drive. This week we start off in South Africa at the Grand Prix Masters. The only requirements are that drivers must be over 45 and still able to handle a single-seater generating 650 brake horsepower. The Masters boasts some top names and world champions from Formula One's recent past.
Well, I'm blind and deaf, and so I just hope to do a good job. I have had a few little problems. I had food poisoning 2 days ago, so I'm feeling a bit weak at the moment. But you can expect the most fantastic race, and nobody's going to hold back.
Some are more famous in sports and touring cars.
Time has changed so much that it's a complete new thing for me. When I was doing Formula One, that was the time when sex was safe and racing was dangerous, you know? And this is a bit of a different story now. But I'm really looking forward, and I'm waiting for the race. And for me, as having not been so successful in Formula One, it's a great honor to be with these masters here in one race.
Even the commentator was an old-timer. Murray Walker called every Grand Prix for 51 years, and despite being well into his 80s, was lured back by his friend Nigel Mansell. Former Tolman, Renault, Brabham, Lotus and Arrows driver, Englishman Derek Warwick, was elected to stage a few demonstration laps in the business district of Santon. His opposition on the leafy streets was American Eddie Cheever. The cars are essentially Reynard chassis fitted with a Cosworth McLaren V8. With a top speed of 320 kilometers an hour, these are fast machines, and without driving aids such as traction control that are found in Formula One, they test a driver's abilities to the full. Masters events have sprung up in tennis, golf and to an extent football and rugby union, but perhaps because of the risks involved, no one had previously considered one for motorsport. The 1992 Formula One world champion Mansell, now aged 52, and his peers came out of retirement for the Grand Prix Masters, of which the Briton had been named Special Ambassador. He was joined by past motor racing greats like Emerson Fittipaldi, world champion in 1972 and 74, Alan Jones, who was world champion in 1980, Johnny Herbert, Stuck, René Arnoux and Riccardo Patrese at Kyalami, a track which most of them have challenged before. Kyalami was home to the South African Grand Prix from 1961 until the circuit changed hands in the early 1990s. At nearly 1,800 metres above sea level and prone to high temperatures and sudden, savage thunderstorms, the track has unique challenges for engineers and drivers alike. In qualifying, Nigel Mansell was dominant, out to repeat his victories of 1985 and 1992.
It was an awesome lap I put together. I slid it around the first, second and third turn, and I hope they got it on telly because there was nothing left in the car, nothing left on the track. It was just one of those perfect laps.
For many years, Kyalami had a mile-long downhill straight, one of the fastest pieces of tarmac in world motorsport. Then the track was extensively remodelled, new pits built and that iconic long straight was scrapped. Two-time Formula One world champion Fittipaldi joined Mansell on the front row, the Brazilian just over half a second slower. A fraction off his pace sat Italy's Riccardo Patrese.
Well, it could be a very tough race. The last sets of tires I had, I saw Nigel, said I'm going to follow Nigel, he back off, I back off, he back off. And I lost my quick lap. And it didn't happen, but I mean, I want to congratulate Nigel and Riccardo to doing a great job. I'm very proud to be here with all these great champions, and it'll be a great show tomorrow. I mean, we're going to drive as hard as we always drove. I mean, qualified today was coming right on the edge.
Patrese is the most experienced driver in Formula One history with 256 Grand Prix starts. Although no longer the host of a Formula One Grand Prix, the track is still occasionally used for hot weather testing, especially during the Northern Hemisphere winter. Australian Alan Jones, world champ in 1980, was a non-starter, forced out and declared unfit to race with severe neck spasms after practice. His place was taken by reserve driver Eliseo Salazar of Chile. From the first corner, the 30-lap Grand Prix proved beyond any doubt that the Masters have lost nothing when it comes to enthralling race fans. The Kyalami race venue was declared a sellout, and searing heat baked down on the 70,000-strong crowd. Mansell grabbed an immediate lead, which he wouldn't lose, despite the very best efforts of several drivers. Stefan Johansson slid off the track on lap 3, the Swede making a minor piece of motor racing history, becoming the first driver to crash out of a Grand Prix Masters race. France's Jacques Lafitte struggled with technical problems throughout the race and pitted several times. Before the beginning of the race, Fittipaldi's car stalled on the grid, but the rules of the race allowed him to overtake in the warm-up lap to take his place on the grid for the start of the race. With big horsepower and minimal electronic aids, drivers put on a good show, power sliding their way through the unforgiving high and low-speed bends and steep hills of Kyalami. The equal nature of the cars allowed the drivers to race extremely closely throughout. Lafitte eventually collided with compatriot René Arnoux in the closing stages of the race. Lafitte left the track for good, while Arnoux finished at the back of the field in 12th. Mansell's grip on the lead came under threat from Fittipaldi throughout the race, but Fittipaldi's determination to pass increased as the race wore on, and Mansell had to use all his skill and experience to hold off the Brazilian in an exciting duel. The battle continued right up until the final lap, but Mansell won the first Grand Prix Masters race in a time of 50 minutes and 55 seconds, with Fittipaldi just 0.4 of a second behind in second place. The pair were the only former world champions in the field. Italian Riccardo Patrese held on to third place throughout the race and finished a further 20 seconds off the pace. Andrea De Cesaris finished fourth, while Briton Derek Warwick and Austrian Hans Stuck completed the top 6. After Mansell won the F1 title in 1992, he promptly moved to America, where he won the IndyCar Championship the next year.
I mean, I'm drained now, and mentally I'm very drained because, you know, I tried to push very hard with the car to get away from Emo, and I just couldn't. And that's hard work, and, you know, and the last 5 laps were very difficult on the tyres, very difficult.
It was very special to drive a car after so many years, and this challenge with Nigel was fantastic. He didn't make a single mistake. I tried to overtake twice, 3 times, but didn't manage it. But I enjoyed every second of the race. And it's very good to be back in motor racing, to compete again. I'm very happy. It was a very special day in my life today. I only have to thank God for this new opportunity to be here in the Grand Prix Masters, having fun and doing what I like most in life, which is driving a race car.
The 5th and final stage of the 2005 Le Mans Endurance Series took the teams and drivers to Istanbul in Turkey. The 6-hour race took place in treacherously wet conditions, with Emmanuel Collard and Jean-Christophe Boulon on pole in their Pescarolo C60, and Collard maintained their lead through the first corner of the race in the difficult conditions. Nicolas Minassian took over in front for Creation Autosportif when Collard and Boulon pitted for fuel, tyres and a driver change. With Boulon at the wheel, though, the Pescarolo fought its way back past Stefan Otelli in the Audi R8 to move into second place. And then past a struggling Minassian to retake the lead, as changeable grip, spray and traffic made racing difficult. In the LMP2 category, the MG Lola of Mike Newton and Tommy Erdos won their class, although Gareth Evans, Peter Owen and Guy Smith claimed the title. Meanwhile, in LMGT1, the Ferrari 550 Maranello of Michele Bartian, Tony Seiler and Christian Pescatore took the win and the title. And in LMGT2, there was a first win of the season for the Scuderia Ecosi Ferrari number 93 of Andrew Kirkcaldy and Nathan Kinch. Back in the main LMP1 class, the race victory went to Pescarolo Sport C60. It was the second win of the season for Boulon and Collard and gave them the LMP1 title. The team decided to change tyres at each pit stop. Aquaplaning was a problem, and changing tyres would lose around 15 seconds each stop, and they didn't know that they would get it back on the track. It was a difficult choice, but a winning one. McNish and Ortelli held the upper hand when the track was at its wettest and put the Pescarolo under pressure in heavy rain in the last 20 minutes, but Boulon took the flag ahead of the Audi. Minassian led during the second hour, but was sent out to complete a third stint, half the race, without changing tyres, and finished third. The Champ Car Series finished its season 8,100 feet above sea level at the Mexico City Grand Prix. A large crowd watched the race, even though the championship had already been finalised. Denmark's Ronnie Bremer, ironically sponsored by American Medical Rescue, was dropped out of the race early when he lost control of his car on the 19th lap and slammed into the tyre barrier. After the debris was removed, the track cleaned and the barrier replaced, the green flag came back out and racing resumed as drivers jockeyed for position. Canadian Paul Tracy tussled with Rodolfo Lavigne, but their scrap took them to the outside of the track, allowing ex-Jaguar Formula One pilot Justin Wilson to sneak by and snatch the lead. The next lap, Tracy was shown the black flag for blocking Wilson's teammate AJ Allmendinger and had to serve a drive-through penalty. Behind Allmendinger, the huge Mexico City crowd began to take notice as Rookie of the Year Timo Glock ran down Mario Dominguez for third. Glock and Dominguez went nose to tail for 3 laps before Glock made a move on the inside of turn 1 with 12 laps to go. Unyielding to the rookie's challenge, Dominguez held his ground and the two cars made contact, putting Dominguez in a spin that ended the Mexican's chances of a hometown podium finish. On lap 62, Sébastien Bourdais closed on Cristiano de Mata for 5th. Closing on the 2002 Series champion, Bourdais made contact with the rear of de Mata's car, sending both of them into the gravel and breaking Bourdais' front wing, causing him to DNF for the first time this year. That set up the final restart, and Wilson snapped off 2 consecutive fastest laps. Tracy made his final restart of the year count and stole 3rd spot behind Allmendinger. Wilson led 65 of the 70 laps to win the Champ Car Series finale, his 2nd victory of the year. The win enabled Wilson, who also won in Toronto in July, to claim 3rd place in the point standings over Tracy. NASCAR went to Texas for the 3rd last race of the season for a battle within a battle. The top 10 drivers are in the chase for the Cup. Ryan Newman was on pole position, but he was forced to use his backup car, putting him at the rear of the grid. Greg Biffle had some trouble on lap 82. He lost control of his car and slid across the nose of another car, which affected the airflow off his rear wing, making the car even looser on the track. But he managed to avoid collecting any other cars before coming to a stop.
That was a nice job by Earnhardt.
It was. He did a good job because, not like I said, Biffle came back and forth a bunch of...
After moving up through the field from his back row start, Ryan Newman's good work was undone when he fell back after spinning on the 243rd lap. He managed to gather up the car after sliding off. 50 laps later, Biffle was in trouble again. He started the day 3rd, but would finish 20th and slipped to 4th in the standings.
Lost it. Yes.
Carl Edwards erased a 12-car lead held by his teammate Mark Martin before passing him on the outside, coming off turn 2 on lap 333 of the 2.4-kilometre oval. Edwards held on to the lead to earn his 4th victory of his first full season in NASCAR's top series. He also narrowed his deficit behind chase leader Tony Stewart from 107 to 77 points. The win moves Edwards into joint 3rd place in the season-ending standings for the title in America's Stock Car Racing Premier Series. Only 2 races remain. Tony Stewart finished 6th and saw his lead in the chase for the Cup drop from 43 points to 38 over Jimmy Johnson, who managed to pass Stewart 2 laps from the end and finish 5th.
And he stopped.
The great and the good of MotoGP gathered in Valencia to celebrate the end of another season and reward the victors. First up in the awards was Thomas Luthi. He's opened a new chapter in motorcycling in Switzerland by taking the 125cc world title. Dani Pedrosa claimed the 250cc world title in Australia, but he finished his season with victory in front of his home crowd in Valencia. It was his 8th win of the season and 15th in the 250 class. The 20-year-old Catalan, who has won 3 consecutive world titles in the 250 and 125 categories, moves to the MotoGP class next year. The big awards of the night came in the MotoGP category. Nicky Hayden claimed 3rd place after coming 3rd in Spain on his Honda. 2nd place went to Marco Melandri, who clinched 2nd place behind Valentino Rossi after winning the season-ending race. That win ensured he finished 14 points ahead of American rival Hayden in the standings. The man everyone wanted to see was Rossi. The Italian Yamaha rider clinched his 5th straight Premier Class world title by coming 2nd in the Malaysian Grand Prix at the end of September. On his way to his 7th career world title, Rossi won 11 races this year and remarkably was only off the podium twice in 17 events.
It looks good, doesn't it?
For sure the number of races, the amount of races are a lot, 11. But always a great battle with different riders also. I think this year had incredible racing, incredible race with a lot of overtake, a lot of show for everybody, and I think MotoGP year by year is always better.
Rossi has been linked to Ferrari's Formula One team and has tested the car several times. And just days after crowning his 250cc world title with victory in the season-ending Grand Prix at Valencia and collecting his 3rd world title medal, Pedrosa had to cut the celebrations short to return to the track in an introduction to the 1-litre V5 monster that he'll be riding in the Blue Ribbon MotoGP class next year. The 20-year-old has won the last 2 250 world titles, and before that he was the 125 world champion. So it's a natural progression for the Spaniard to step up to motorcycling's Premier Class, and he's following a similar path to that of current MotoGP king Valentino Rossi, who also served a rewarding apprenticeship in the lower classes. The jockey-sized Pedrosa didn't feel the need to hit top speed in testing, instead focusing on finding a comfortable seating position on the big bike. Poor weather in Spain also left him unable to complete as many laps as he would have liked.
Well, I think new experience for me, and also it's so different between 250 and MotoGP bike, so I'm trying to get used to, get family with the team also, and today we didn't have a great day because it was raining, but I hope to make more runs and laps and get better feeling.
Unfortunately, Pedrosa has plenty of time to get everything right before he makes his debut in the top class back in front of his countrymen at Jerez on March the 26th. There was also plenty of interest in another Spaniard at the circuit, with Sete Gibernau testing his new Ducati after ending his 4-year association with Honda. Gibernau spent plenty of time getting his message across to his new team as he desperately seeks to improve on a disappointing 7th-placed finish in the World Championship this year. The Ducati team won 2 races with Loris Capirossi this year, and by signing Gibernau to replace the underperforming Carlos Checa, they hope to build on that success next year. Casey Stoner also received his fair share of attention. The young Australian was runner-up to Pedrosa in the 250cc class, and he's been given a chance by the Sito Pons Run garage to show that he's ready for a step up to MotoGP next season. Despite doing some early laps in lovely Spanish sunshine, the 20-year-old was later frustrated by the rain, which denied him valuable time on the track.
No, so far it's been very good. The weather hasn't been great because we haven't been able to get a lot of track time, but other than that, it's been, it's a dream come true, and we're a step closer to, doing what I've always wanted to do, and, this has been the Premier Class.
There was drama for Spanish veteran Carlos Checa as he crashed on just his 3rd lap with the Pons Honda team. The crash-prone Checa, dubbed Chucker for his frequent off-track flings, was transferred to a local hospital with chest contusions but was unhurt, until team owner Sito Pons caught up with him anyway. The final round of the 2005 Supermoto World Championship, the Grand Prix of Italy, was held in a sunny Latina just south of Rome. In the S2 class, the day's first race saw a French 1-2-3. Boris Chambon won on his KTM by half a second from Husqvarna's Adrien Scherer, who started on pole. Frederic Bolly was third for Aprilia, 4 seconds behind, while Belgian Husqvarna rider Eddie Seal, who came into the event battling for the overall title with Bolly and Scherer, finished down in 23rd place. And there was another French 1-2-3 in race 2. Scherer went one better this time, first place giving him the day's overall S2 Grand Prix of Italy victory. He edged out his brother and fellow Husqvarna Thomas by 1.21 seconds. Boris Chambon was third and Eddie Seal sixth.
E va a premiare il vincitore. Ed ora attenzione che parta l'inno.
Third place was enough to give Chambon the S2 title. The Frenchman finished on 287 points, 3 more than Scherer on 284, with Seal third on 256. In the S1 class, race 1 saw France's Thierry van den Bosch continue his winning form, winning on his KTM 4.5 seconds clear of Bernd Hiemer of Germany. Another German, Jürgen Kinzel, was third, making it an all-KTM podium. Championship leader Gerard Delapine was fourth on his Husqvarna. It was a similar story in race 2. Van den Bosch won again, nearly 5 seconds ahead of Hiemer. Italy's Ivan Lazzarini was third for Husqvarna, 12 seconds further back. So the S1 class's win went to Van den Bosch. Delapine was sixth in race 2, enough to give him sixth overall in the Grand Prix, and more importantly, secure him the championship. The Belgian finished the season with 316 points, 9 more than Hiemer in second and 14 more than Van der Bosch in third. KTM won the manufacturer's title by just 2 points from Husqvarna. And finally, the Painted Desert is in the arid Australian outback. It was in this area that the desolate desert scenes in the iconic Mad Max movies were filmed. It was also the venue of a spectacular world record attempt by a former World Cup Series mountain bike downhill champion, Nathan Rennie. The Australian was trying to break the record of legendary American BMX rider Colin Winkleman, who had jumped 116 feet. Rennie was hurled into the ramp by Australian motocross rider and World 125 jump record holder Robbie Madison, reaching over 95 kilometres an hour on a loose dirt track. 8 people have died in the past 10 years trying to extend the record. Rennie timed his approach to perfection and soared through the air. In fact, his approach was so good that he crashed on landing after over-jumping his down ramp, despite coming down on both wheels. Incredibly, the 24-year-old 95-kilo rider walked away from the crash, although his bike was totaled.
121 feet, that's a record in my book, but I just can't hang on to it, but I don't mind. That's fine. I mean, it'd be good to get in the Guinness Book of Records, but have it be known that that's the biggest jump. If anyone wants to come and get it, there it is. That's what you got to do. You got to step it up, you got to hit it, and you know I'll go bigger if you will.
Rennie has no plans for a follow-up to get his record ratified. So whether you're one of the oldies in a spin, just bumping into old friends, or sharing a drink, so you stay on track and up to speed, make sure you catch next week's Drive.